Now, that is very important. I went to China 4 times. First time as a communist and 3 times as not a communist. So, the first time was in end of 1978, when the Cultural Revolution had almost collapsed. And then the second time was when I was working with Rajiv Gandhi, and we were all telling him to go to China. So before he went, he told me, you go there and come back and tell me what is the feeling about India. Anyway, and then in 91, and the last was 2006 May, when we went in a party delegation invited by the Chinese Communist Party. These were the 4 times that I went to China. And the 2 things which really I would say, which I found typically Chinese. One is the sense of practicality, not merely the sense, but behavior of practicality. See, second is the question about religion, and he was answering that question as China, in spite of having Buddhism, except Tibet, does not have that kind of presence of religion at all. And especially in the post-communist China, even before that, I do not see that kind of presence of organized religion in China. Perhaps because in Confucius you have teaching, but you have no preaching. I don't think Confucius has any preaching. There is teaching. And these are the 2 things about Chinese society which are extremely important. And I wander around the world and I see the diaspora, the Indian diaspora. If there's any diaspora more than us, it is the Chinese diaspora. So whenever I go in different parts of it is not merely China. Even the Chinese diaspora has these 2 elements quite strong. And the third is, of course, doesn't need a lot of intellectual critical inquiry, is their devotion to trade and business as a trade. Anywhere you go, take a country like Mauritius, where Indian people of Indian origin are in majority. Chinese are a very small community in Mauritius, but trade is in their hands, not in the hands of Indians. So this, you will see that sense of, and then there is another point which you should remember. How come it is that needs analysis, which question I asked several times. And of course, Ravi's talk has helped me in actually understanding the answer to that question. Nowhere in the communist system you find a disgraced leader, not merely resurrected, but in a position to lead the party and give the direction to the entire nation. This is only in China. Nowhere in a communist party you will find this example. And therefore, not to take much of your time, and I'll tell you about the last visit. One of my friends in the delegation, Y.P. Trivedi, because I had insisted that we want to go to the Beijing University. We went to the Beijing University, Vice Chancellor was also there. So he asked a question, do you teach Marxism? They said, yes, we teach Marxism, but it's not very popular. That was the frank answer. There's nothing hidden about it. And then I asked the member of the Central Committee, International Department of the Communist Party, what is the central task of the CPC, Communist Party of China? He looked at me, smiled, said, building capitalism. without Now the last thing which I will conclude with is a joke which I heard in China, which I tell my friends. I told Sudhin yesterday, which really would describe the Chinese-ness of the Chinese society is. After the collapse of the Cultural Revolution, and this was a joke that I heard in China in my first visit, after the collapse of the Cultural Revolution, the gates of prison were opened people who were jailed were released. Now the first gate was opened. So there are 3 men released. So the man in the middle, he was asking about the middle kingdoms gate. It reminds me, the man in the middle asked the man on the left, "Why were you arrested?" He was very hesitant. Maybe if I answer this question, I may be arrested again. I've come out after a long time. Anyway, to cut the story short, the man on the left said, "Well, because I was opposed to Deng Xiaoping. I was arrested because I was opposed to Deng Xiaoping." Okay, the second gate came. The man in the middle now asks the man on the right, "Why were you arrested?" He said, "Well, I supported Deng Xiaoping." Then the final gate came, the last one. Then all the 3 had to go out. So the man on the left and the man on the right asked the man in the middle, "Well, why were you arrested?" He said, "I am Deng Xiaoping." Thank you very much.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद त्रिपाठी जी. Friends, we have spent the past 2 hours or more than 2 hours very productively thanks to a brilliant talk by Shri Ravi Bhoothalingam. You will agree with me that he helped us understand China taking, as he said right at the beginning, a long view. And he concluded his talk by telling us Indians, that we also need to take a long view. We both are ancient civilizations, rapidly modernizing, but modernization need not follow a single model that has come from some other part of the world. Of course, neither China nor India lives as an island. We live in an interdependent, integral world, one world, where we have to learn from each other, and that is what our civilizations have taught us right from the beginning. Yet, we have to be ourselves. Before he began his talk, we were having a conversation in my room, and Shri Ravi Bhoothalingam made a very pertinent point that perhaps the Chinese are following Mahatma Gandhi better than we Indians. Because the Mahatma had said that I would like to keep all the doors and windows of my house open for the fresh air of knowledge to come in from all over the world, but I will not let my house to be swept away by these winds. The Chinese are attempting in their own way. Of course, they've had many difficulties. They have learnt a lot, and of course, after the Cultural Revolution and all the turmoil that took place, they learnt a very important lesson, that they have to open themselves up to the rest of the world. And in 20 short years, now 30, they have created a miracle. That sense of practicality that Tripathi ji mentioned. At the same time, they are refusing to become a replica of the West. They are deeply concerned that they might indeed become one if they are not careful. And hence, the one thing that really struck me when Shri Bhoothalingam was telling us about this self-reflective nature of the Communist Party. I don't think, Tripathi ji, you've been a communist. There are not many examples in the communist history where a party has been so self-reflective as the Chinese party has been, especially in the last 20 years. Learning again from the rest of the world, trying to get the best from the rest of the world, and yet very zealously protecting the essence of China. And that essence is rooted in the civilization of China, and that is what we need to do ourselves as we confront our very, very grave problems. Friends, as I said, it's been a very illuminating lecture, and on behalf of all of you, I want to thank Shri Ravi Bhoothalingam. Just as his earlier talk at the Observer Research Foundation, Delhi, was published, we are going to do the same. I'm very happy that he has agreed to provide a written text, and we'll publish it and send it to a much, much wider audience. I want to thank Tripathi ji. You know, he has to now go back to all the way to Chembur to attend a party meeting. Tripathi ji, your presence lent a very important dimension to our program today, because, as I said right at the beginning, you have, in your own very quiet way, promoted India-China friendship even in difficult days. Of course, now it's not as difficult as earlier. We would like you to be associated with our effort in the future too. I want to thank friends Tripathi ji on behalf of all of you, and we'll have him again very soon. We have one more person on the dais, Mr. Zhang, but he requested us when we invited him and he accepted our invitation that he won't speak. But now that he's come to our office and he helped us immensely in making this a big success. Most of what you see on display out there, we were with him just the first 2 minutes. He spoke to us for 2 minutes and he said, "Oh, I'm going to get some useful things for you." And he brought all these books and magazines and other things. And he said, "What else are you willing to do for promoting better understanding between India and China? Not just understanding about China in India." He said, "We also need to create better understanding about India in China." So we see you as our partner in this endeavor, and we're going to see you in our office more often, and we'll really do some interesting things to promote our common cause. Thank you very much. And friends, a special thanks to all of you. Keep coming again to our office and enrich our activities with your participation, with your suggestion for